Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I'm your host, Todd Armstrong, and today's episode is going to be called Integrating Integrity. Live recording this now on my Facebook page as well. So if you're on the Facebook page, you can be watching this right now. And you'll just hear it before everybody else does, before it gets put on the RSS feed or on YouTube or anything. So let's see. I don't think I have anything to talk about in the beginning other than, I want you to check out the website, tinyurl.com/goodness -over-darkness. And you can also go to the Great Chakra Awakening 777.podbean.com. And you can email the show, the Great Chakra Awakening 777@gmail.com. So those are the places you can find me. And if you go to the website, you can find on a link on the right hand side on a desktop, or it's all the way down at the bottom if you're on a mobile. It'll say Facebook, and that's the Facebook page, and it says YouTube, that's my YouTube page, and it says other episodes or other shows that I've been a guest on. So that is what you can find on the website, as well as all my podcasts. And you can find the podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and I think TuneIn as well. Alexa and TuneIn, same thing. You can find them on there. Or I think you can download directly off the website too. If you're on a desktop, I think you can download directly from the website. Okay, so today I am going to talk about integrating integrity. Now, what's that even mean? Now, integrating integrity. Well, to me, the person that I didn't have very much integrity. Like I said, I was a very good thief and a very good liar, and I was very sneaky. So I didn't really have integrity. So what I had to do was I had to start becoming, I needed to have integrity. I'm sitting in jail from this point in the story. I'm sitting in jail, and for the first time in I don't even know how long. Maybe I heard it before, but just this time when I heard it, it struck me that one of the CEOs at Quijana, when I was at the boot camp, one of the CEOs said, because we were, okay, let me set the scene. So we would make what's called a chi-chi, which is oodles and noodles, and you have to, and you get meats and cheeses and different cheese puffs, and you crush up the cheese puffs, and that acts as like a cheese that gets absorbed by the noodles. So this is like something you can buy all these things off a commissary when you're in jail, and you make this meal because it's better than anything you're going to get there. And you're not supposed to make it the way that you have to make it. You need a bag, because the way you have to cook the noodles is, well, you get a bunch of people to throw in a bunch of things so that you can do a big meal for a bunch of people. And you need to cook it in something, and you don't really have anything. You're in jail. So we would use trash bags, and you just, let the oodles and noodles sit in hot water, and it absorbs all the water, and that and the broken up cheese puffs and Cheetos or whatever else, and it would absorb all the water, and that's how it cooks it. So we would have to get trash bags to do this, and we weren't allowed to have trash bags because it's, it's jail property or whatever. But that's the only way to do it. So like COs are kind of understanding, some of them anyway, and they'll either get them for you or they'll see you with them and they won't care. But other ones, they'll throw them out, and or they'll find them and they'll take them from you. That happens. But for the most part, they let you have them. So this one CO, he was real cool so on the block at Quahana, he was probably the coolest CO because all he had to do, his job was just sit at the top of the block while everybody played games, board games, card games, or watch movies. So he just watched movies all day and babysat us, and then they have lunch and also they switch off. But he was the main guy that was on that block, the waiting block. So he didn't have really anything to do. So he was cool. And if you would ask him for a trash bag, he'd probably get you a trash bag. But there came a point that when you're everyone is on work detail. So everyone has access to the closets at all times. And, you can get a trash bag. So he caught me stealing a trash bag. And it's not that it was a big deal. He didn't really say anything, but he said, you could have just asked me. He said, why don't you have some integrity? And the way he said it just struck me. I was like, man, integrity. And then someone was like, what's integrity even mean? And he said, it means doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And it struck me. It's like, I never knew that. It was new to me, a new concept. Not a concept, new word to describe that. I didn't know that was a thing. My morals were so immoral that I didn't, that wasn't something I ever thought about. But that changed me. That interaction with that CO changed me because he told me what integrity was. And that's something that I didn't have. So it was an awakening for me to something new. And I started to do the right thing. So, getting out of jail, integrating back into society from prison, that is very difficult. State prison, rehab, state-run rehab, and a state halfway house. That is very difficult to get over. Felonies, 4 felonies on my record, 4. I had, I think, like 27 different court cases, something like that, because of my crimes, because there were so many different crimes. I had like 18 felonies I was charged with initially, and like 30 some misdemeanors. That's what they charged me with. So I had 27 court cases because I had to go to 3 different places. I had 2 different counties and 3 different townships. So it was a process, and I had to integrate back into society after being caged up like an animal for 2 years, separated by race, gender first, and then by race and age. Just being numbered, being known as your number. Episode 4, that was my state number. Something I'll never forget, because for 2 years, that's how I was identified, was that number. And that does something to a person, and it doesn't really matter. Well, it was a year. No, it was 2 years. But for 6 months before that, I was in county and I had a different number. I don't remember that number. But maybe if I think about it, it'll come to me. But it's, being known as a number, being treated like the way COs treat you in jail. And again, I'm not saying that every CO is a bad one, or that the criminals don't deserve to be treated unfairly at times. Not unfairly, but that they'll get their just desserts, so to speak. But the way that it happens isn't just because it ends up making that person revert to more crime, because we're not healing anybody in the way that the criminal system works. And yes, the criminals need to be healed, because if they were healed, then they wouldn't have committed the crime. And I'm not suggesting anything of that I know a better way. Okay, let's just get that clear. I'm not saying that I know a better way. I'm just saying this way doesn't work, because it makes you more susceptible to do crime, because they put you in high crime areas, which are low income levels, which are usually inner city, and they expect you to thrive from there. Now, an advantage of that is that when you're in a large city and there's many criminals, an advantage to that is that many jobs are more willing to accept felons. But those jobs are shit jobs, and they're jobs that nobody wants to do. So what is jail doing? It's pushing people to low-level jobs, dead-end jobs that they don't want to do, that they get treated like shit at by the public or by management or by both. And or it's pushing them into more criminal activity. Okay, that's what our criminal system does. And it puts you right back into the same streets with the same drugs that you were addicted to. They put you there on purpose. And it's said that different townships don't want a halfway house there because they don't want criminals, and I could see that. But there has to be some kind of way to not have halfway houses in the hood. I mean, there just has to be. And yes, while some people in halfway houses are bad people, there are most are at least looking to get out of that situation and doing it in a way that doesn't involve more crime. Most people are looking for a job to have money so that they can then do things. So, while people from jail may be rough around the edges at first, you have to give them time to integrate back into society. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I can't even comprehend the process. I mean, I never even have thought about it as much as I am at this moment, because it was something, man, integrating back into going from the way that I was treated as a prisoner to then getting the job that I had, and the first job that I had out of prison, and the love that my boss had for me. Well, it was amazing, because that's exactly what I needed. Where I went, where I worked at, I mean, everything is not coincidence, right? I mean, nothing is coincidence. Everything is on purpose. Saying everything is not coincidence leaves room for error. But no, there's no such thing as coincidence. Your life is tailor-made to you. You are special, and your life is tailor-made for you. And you can see God in all things around you. The music you listen to, the shows you choose to watch, the people you choose to be around, everything, the billboard you drive by, everything is God speaking to you, because everything is God and you are God. So you are speaking to yourself through physical means every single moment of every single day. And sometimes, we like to create our own things, and that happens, and that's why we're in a material world, because we wanted to keep creating. But oh man, I forget why I went on this little tangent. But the universe is always speaking to you. So uh, when you're in jail, you're in a prison in your mind. And then because you think you deserve it, or your higher self thinks you deserve it for whatever reason, even if you're innocent, quote unquote innocent, but really innocent, I mean, you're in jail. It's a physical representation of what you are mentally and emotionally doing to yourself. So when you get out of jail, it's a very difficult process, because you're treated. Oh, I was talking about my job. I'll get to back to my job. But the way you are treated is so poor. There's nothing worse than being treated like shit, and then uh, you know, by the CO, and then you have to go eat food that you wouldn't feed to your dog. I mean, it's constant barrage, everything. It's nonstop. COs yelling at you, you fending off other criminals, uh, you fending off everything. Even your loved ones, you have to, sometimes you'll hear them like tell you something that upsets you, maybe, or that you're not, makes you come back to what you did, to be in there and all. And it's just like getting put down by everything in society. But it's also what, in my case, what was needed. It's what I set up for myself before I was born, so that I could get to where I am now. But I had to learn everything physically first. I had to physically understand what I was doing to myself, and I had to physically work my way out of it. So I had to integrate back into society. I had to become a normal person again. Okay, you go from jail, where they separate you by gender, and then race, and then age. And I'm sure, and let me just say this, that if you're white and you're a Muslim, they'll classify you with the Muslims rather than white. It's very strange, because Christianity is treated as a white religion predominantly, and Islam is treated as okay, well, this is Philly anyway. The Islam community was predominantly black. So, if you were a white Muslim, you got placed with the black population, I guess, to keep for religious reasons. So what ends up happening is everyone gets treated as their own little gang in there, or maybe they even think themselves, everyone individually or collectively anyway, thinks of them and their little clique of friends on the block as a little gang, or maybe not just on the block, but in the entire jail. And even if that dynamic doesn't exist, that we form those things, and people are then calling us out on it, maybe it's the people calling us out on it are just putting us there. Maybe they're just assuming those things. But what came first, the chicken or the egg? It doesn't really matter, because it's there. It's both right now, I'd say. So while some people are treated the way that they're acting, others aren't. Some people are acting crazy and getting the block shut down, while others are uh, just trying to play cards and watch TV. And you learn very quickly that the collective, it doesn't matter what you are, you're a collective. You're all being judged. And now you're being divided and separated into these little groups so we can further judge each other now. So when we get integrated back into society, it's okay, you're living in a halfway house and you got to get a job. But okay, what job's going to hire you? I end up getting hired at a job as a delivery driver, overnight delivery driver. I had no car, so the way that I got in was I had to be in at 3 a.m. because it was delivering pastries and other and coffee and other breakfast items to different stores. So I had to be in at 3 a.m., which it wasn't much of an issue getting approved for that time, but I did have to get approved for that time because they give you a certain time frame that they want you out of the house. So before I get a job, every day I'm looking for a job. So you have to sign in and sign out of the house every day. And what I would do, I'd walk a few miles to the library. So I'd walk from North Philly to Center City. I don't know, maybe 10 miles, 5-10 miles, something like that I'd walk each way. And you have blisters on your feet, and it was hot, and it was not fun. But I needed a job, so that was my only option. We'd sign out, and we go to the library downtown on the computer, or sometimes we go to Temple, and we would go use their computers. We get a pass for there and whatnot. So they were the options. So it was not an easy task finding a job because they let you out from like 8 to 5, but maybe you have to come check in at like 12 or 1, or maybe you can stay out the whole time, but if you're late, you're going to get in trouble. And then maybe you have group that night, so then you got to be back, and it's just such a headache. And they have to check your cell phone at the door. You have to empty your pockets and all that. So you're still being treated like a criminal, which I guess you still are, but you're getting drug tested, you're getting randomly searched, and when a male is searching another male, because that's how it has to happen, I guess legally standing, it has to be male on male and female on female. For the most part, I guess there are some loopholes or whatever, but for the most part, that's how it goes. But when a male purposely, grabs your genitals, that's like the ultimate FU. And anybody who has that happen to them, you're trying to belittle them. You're trying to emasculate them, make them feel less of a man. And, that is provoking, right? So if someone reacts, but then the person's protected, but it's just that the guy's an asshole that you have working for you, and he's searching you and doing that stuff on purpose. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily happened to me, but it happened all the time. It's like a show of dominance, I guess you would say. But anyway, so you come home from doing all that walking, thirsty as can be, you don't have any money really, so you don't really have a drink, so you have to make it to the water fountain in the Philly library. But then I get a job, so 2 months of that, and I get a job, and I get approved, right away. They let me do it. But so how I had to get there was, I think it was like the first day Uh, so it was the day before I was supposed to start. So I did my training first 3 days or whatever, but I was supposed to start the training on like Wednesday, but then like Tuesday, the guy who was supposed to be there, so I got hired on like a Monday, and then Tuesday the guy didn't show up. So then I got called in Monday night. My supervisor woke me up, so I'm like, yeah, but it's going to take me a while to get in. I got to take the bus and I got to take 2 different buses at least to get there. So he came and picked me up. But then after that, it was like a 45-minute drive from my halfway house to my job. So if I just drove, it would have been maybe 30, 35 minutes. But it was still a pretty far drive. And on top of it, I had to take a bus, or sometimes I would take the trolley, or not the trolley, I'm sorry, the subway. The subway was cool because, subway comes every few minutes and you just hop in and then you get off, it stops every few blocks at the subway stops, and you get off. So you get around the city real quick that way. But my second leg, I had to take a bus. There was no trolley, there was no subway. I had to take the bus, or I could take an Uber, which sometimes I took an Uber home to my parents' house when I got to that point. I took an Uber home, but I got hired as a delivery driver, and it would take me, I think it was like an hour and a half or so, maybe like an hour and 20 minutes it would take me to get from the 2 buses and, to get into work, because you can only get the buses at a certain time, even though, I might end up being like 45 minutes early. It's either that or I'm 15 minutes late, at the earliest 15 minutes late, because they only come once an hour. So, I'm just, at the mercy of God at that point, just, riding the bus, and crazy shit happens in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, at 3 a.m. on the bus and the subway, especially when you're at Broadway or not Broadway, at Broad and Erie. Broad and Erie, that was where I had to catch my second bus. And that is, that's like fending for your life at 11 in the afternoon, or like 2 in the afternoon. It's like, all eyes, you're in karate stance. But at 3 a.m, man, thank God nothing ever happened. But it was for what, like 4 months. I think 4, 5, 6 months, something like that I had to do that for. And man, it was not cool. That was like 4.5, I think. So I get hired as a delivery driver. But then, and I'm working there for like a month or 2. Maybe about 2 months. And I'm a really good employee. Like, I work really hard, really fast, really efficiently. I'm not bragging. I'm just, that's just how it is. I am very good at whatever I'm doing. I put my mind to it and I become very good at it. If you don't believe me, I went from 280 pounds to nearly having a 6-pack. You can check the Facebook page. If you don't believe me, you can see the befores and the afters. That's because I work very hard at something and I get very good at it very quickly. So I'm a very good employee at this point. It's 3 months in, I think. Not 1 month, but 3 months in. And I get a letter and my license gets suspended from the incident that landed me in jail. So this is a 6-month license suspension. And I was in jail for 2 years. And they waited until I got out. Until I got all the way out. 3 months into my job. So this is 5 months into the halfway house, which is 7 months removed from state prison, which was a year and a half removed from getting arrested. So that's when it should have been suspended. A year and a half plus 7 months is, I don't know what, 25 months. That's 2 years. Yeah, 2 years and a month later, they suspended, or whatever, 2 years and 7 months later, actually. But so it gets suspended. Now, at this point, I started on the process of going home to my parents. So I was staying at the halfway house. Like I said before, it was 6 nights at the halfway house, and one with my parents, and then 5 and 2, and 4 and 3, and then 3 and 4, and then 2 and 5, and then 6 and 1, and then I would be all the way at my parents. So at some point in there, I was. This is when my license gets suspended. So what happens? Because I was such a good employee, my boss, her name, I'll just say her first name was Meg. She loved me so much, and she is exactly what I needed to integrate back into society. Meg and Heather and Asia and just everybody at High Point. They and Sarah, and Becky, and so many of them, and Brooklyn, everybody there, they were so warm and loving. And I was honest about everything with them, with my past, because I learned through the hiring process, or attempting to get hired process, that it's better to just be upfront. Because what jail taught me, literally, they had classes on this, was not to mention anything until it was absolutely necessary. Wait till the very end, get the job first. And I kept doing that. And and companies, they aren't allowed to, quote unquote, aren't allowed to discriminate against you with a felony. So they do the first round of things, and if you pass, if they want to further contact you, then they'll contact you. But then at that stage, then they're not hiring you because you're a felon, and it happens with everybody. So the law is just stupid. It's just another leg to get through. So I learned to become honest and upfront with people right away. Like, don't waste my time, because what happens is my hopes get up, like, oh, someone is finally returning an email or a phone call. Okay, maybe they'll hire me, and then they don't hire me, and it's because of the background, and it's like, what's the point? So, and after going through that heartbreak a few times of hoping to get a job and then not getting it, I learned to just be upfront. And I was upfront with Meg and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's who hired me, and Meg was the owner. And I told them upfront, I was like, hey, I have felonies. I was a thief, I was a drug addict, I was a liar. I told them everything. And they said, come on in, give you a chance. I said, this will be my first job in 2 years because of prison. I said, come on in. I have a good resume. I had worked for Pepsi for 17 months. I'd worked for Cisco. My resume consisted of me working at jobs for long distances of time. I worked at UPS for 3 years, not just Wings for 3 years. Like I said, I was always a good employee, even when I did drugs. And that's probably why I did drugs as often as I did, was because I was very good at integrating being high in my regular life. And I was high all the time, and I was still better at my job than anyone else could have been. And that's why my employers didn't really care. At least the ones that knew about my drug use, they didn't care because I was the best employee that they had. So they're like, oh, okay, whatever. That's just, he gets high, that's cool. But now I tell them everything, and they welcome me with open arms. And it was so wonderful. So what Meg did for me was she offered, uh, actually, I don't know if I want to say this, but anyway, she gave me a wonderful offer. And then, and I took her up on it at first, and then, between the both of us, we reconsidered. And so what she did for me, she created a position. She created a whole new position for me. Not just did she create a whole new position for me, what had happened was the buses went on strike right around this time, SEPTA. So what happened was they weren't running as often. So between like midnight and 3 a.m., they weren't running anymore. And I couldn't get into work. So she allowed me to come in at a time that was convenient for me, more convenient for me. So she would end up paying me more, because instead of being part-time, I would then be full-time, because I'd be coming in a full, like 4 hours earlier. So she created a position for me. And it was just like this shot of love to my heart. And it was just so amazing. And the thing I didn't want to talk about too, that was amazing as well. So it's just like so much unconditional love that I'm getting. Well, maybe not unconditional, but it feels unconditional, because I was so down about it. I contemplated for weeks of whether I should tell her or not, because I got the letter in the mail and I didn't want to tell him, because I was like, I'm gonna lose my job. And it was so hard to get this job. I don't want to lose this job. But then it was like, you know what? I just got to be honest. And I told her, and then she gave me that offer. And it was just like so amazing. And on top of it, her father was a lawyer, and she got him to, write up this letter, and send it to PennDOT. Or no, sorry. She wrote up a letter and sent it to PennDOT, Pennsylvania DOT, and about how wrong it was. And she offered to get her father involved, but I told her no, not to get her father involved. So she created that position for me and made it full time too, because I was kind of full time. I was around like 30 hours, but they didn't really have much for me to do, because I would come in at 3, and I would be done at like 7, be done the route, and then they would have cleaning projects and stuff for me to do around whole the whole place. So that's what I did, and it wasn't, it still wasn't, because I cleaned hard and fast, and I would still only do it in like 6 hours. So then she gave me, I was cleaning dishes for that, instead of doing the driving thing, because she wanted to keep me as an employee, even though what I was hired as I couldn't do. And a position was being created because I was wanted. So that was so nice, and it was such a big step forward for me. So what ends up happening from there, so 6 months later, I get my license back and I start driving again. Okay, 3 months after that, uh, I become the driver manager. So Brooklyn gets a raise to, I forget what his title was, but he becomes higher in the company. And he's doing more of the fixing all the broken coffee machines, because we have several cafes, and he's just doing a lot of maintenance type things. And I become the driver manager, because I was a very good driver, and they saw that I knew what I was doing, and I did the routes better than anyone. In Brooklyn, drove like a maniac, and I was still way faster than he was, and I could set the routes properly, and so boom, makes another position for me, driver manager. So I get another raise. And what that leads to over the course of the next year was I end up working in the office a lot, and I do a lot of hiring and firing. I become a boss. I become uh, without a number two in the company. I ended up being more relied upon than anyone else in the company. My opinion mattered to Meg more than anyone else's. And, that's what I believe anyway, and what I am empathically picked up on, other than her husband doesn't count. But anyone that was just in the business, I I, I felt I was very relied upon uh, as for my opinion, and that was so wonderful. So we had uh, this. Uh, so we ended up doing. So about 6 months in, we end up. Uh, Maybe it was like 4 months in. We end up having a merger of our company and another company for the delivery side. So it was like these two companies had the idea of, well, you guys deliver and we need a delivery service. And my boss is like, well, Todd is doing a wonderful job. So boom, Todd, can you integrate this new company, their delivery schedule into ours? And we did it. And I outfitted the vans in order to accommodate them, and I did all the routes. And I had the keys to probably like 50 some stores that I went into every single night, overnight. And I had access to all kinds of money and all that. And I never stole once. I never got accused of stealing once. Nothing, because I had integrity. It was in the middle of the night, and I'm out of jail on felonies for not robbing, burglarizing stores. And I'm being trusted with all this, with the keys to vans and all that, the keys to all these different stores. And I was in charge of other people. I was responsible for other people uh, going into these stores. And not one of my employees ever got accused of anything. So, you know, you can take that for what it's worth. But going from where I was to that moment, I was like, when I realized having responsibility, someone allowing me to be responsible was a blessing. When I felt that, it was just so amazing, because I went from not being trusted at all by anyone, because I shouldn't have been, to these people who didn't know me, who gave me a chance. And then I went from being a really good employee who happened to lose his license, and he couldn't do for you what you hired him to do. So, they create a position. Then I get my license back, and then I do so well again. I continue to do so well that they give me a raise and make me the boss of individuals, doing hirings and firings. Like, I had to do all that stuff. I had to make all the schedules. I had to do a lot. I organized a lot of different stuff for them. I did a lot of office work. I had no idea how to use a computer when I started out. And then I ended up teaching myself Microsoft Excel and just Google Sheets and all sorts of stuff, Google Docs, and the Google Drive. I didn't know anything, and I just taught myself, because part of my job was going on a computer. So what I do, I'd go on computers and I'd get good at doing what I was doing. So that's just how it occurs. I get really good at something really quickly. So I was there for a year of doing that, being a driver manager for a year, and then it got to be too much, because uh, it was around the Eagles won the Super Bowl, which, if you're watching the episode, you can see my Eagles shirt uh, and my Eagles tattoo. Told you I was very big into sports. So I was still big into sports at that time, and it was amazing. I was able to take off for the parade so I went to the parade with Maya, my daughter, and her mom, Carrie, and we had an amazing time. And actually, Maya's feet were so cold. It was freezing. It was like 20 degrees and the ground was frozen. But it was so cold, her feet, that we had to take them out of the shoes and socks, and I was warming up with my hands, and then some lady had little hand warmers that we put on our feet to warm them up. So we were there for hours and hours, and we had everything, except I didn't have hand warmers for the feet. I didn't think of more hand warmers. We only had like, I think, one set each that we had used for our hands already, but they stayed warm for like 8 hours, but we didn't think of more for the feet. So it was awesome that that lady did that for us. But yeah, so around the Super Bowl, what ended up happening was the guy that was supposed to come in, he didn't come in that night. So I was up for like 36 hours straight. I went from watching the Super Bowl. I woke up Sunday morning, watched the Super Bowl, and then had to go in after the Super Bowl and driving through Philly, and it was awesome. But it was, it was chaos everywhere. Everything was destroyed. By the time I got there, like 5, 6 in the morning, mostly everyone had gone home, gone wherever. But the chaos was all over the place, broken down. Just a reason to riot, basically. But I mean, it was just an awesome energy of elation driving through the city, and just the joy everybody had. It was amazing. But the guy didn't show up, so I fired him. You're a no call, no show, you get fired. So then that kept happening, is people wouldn't show up, and then I'd fire them. So I set a high standard, and we weren't reaching it. And I had to keep working my job, so it started getting to me. So I had to work my job during the day, and then I'd have to come in at night and do their job. So what I would do is I would stay straight from doing their job to do mine, and then I'd leave at like 11 in the morning, but I'm still coming in at like 11 at night, and I'm working that entire time, and then I'm sleeping during the day, and it was just so hard. I did not like it. So I told my boss, I was like, hey, I can't do it. And I gave her 6 weeks notice. And on a Tuesday, I'm like, that's it. I'll give you 6 weeks notice, because of how high in the company I was. She was like, I thought that I would need that long. And she goes, on Friday, I'll make today your last day, but I'll give you 6 weeks of severance pay, because I can tell how hard it's been on you. And you've worked so hard. I want to reward you with 6 weeks of severance pay. So, take that 6 weeks, you're going to look for a job, and you'll still get paid, but you'll be at home doing it. And it was just like such another loving gesture by Meg. And it was just, it was so wonderful. So I ended up getting another job working for a vending company, filling vending machines, which was a really sweet gig. So if anyone's looking for a job, you should definitely look to work for a vending machine company, because they don't really, well, I mean, some of them anyway, they don't really do background checks or anything. But again, I was upfront and honest. I made a lot of money working for them, because I got paid commission. And you basically, if you fill the machine with good stuff, it's gonna get bought. So I got that job a month after. So I had a month's vacation, paid vacation, while I'm looking for a job, get that job, and I'm still getting paid. So I was getting paid by both jobs at one point. It was a really good month. So then I was able to move into an apartment. So, I had quit that job with no prospects and give 6 weeks notice. And what happens that Friday? I get 6 weeks severance pay. And a month later, I have this job where I'm making, I think at that point I was only making like maybe 700 a week, which is good. But I ended up making like 1,000 a week, towards like the middle. And so I'm making 700, plus I was getting paid, I was 1,200. So I was salaried which was the problem at High Point. And I was salaried and I was working so much and I wasn't getting paid extra. So part of the 6 week severance was for that reason, as I just said, what she told me. So, uh, I made, another $1,200 on top of the money I was making at my new job. So I was able to get the apartment real quick. And I had met who's now an ex-girlfriend, but I had met a girl, and she actually was from Washington, well, lived in Washington State, and we met. She was in Pennsylvania for like a friend's wedding, and we met, and 2 months later, she moved to Pennsylvania in the apartment with me. It was actually, she put down the a down payment, a large amount of money, like instantly. So I was living in the apartment for about a month and a half before she moved in. Without her money, I wouldn't have been able to move in. So it was like another blessing. But I also needed to get out of my parents' house because, like I said, my mother's relationship with me isn't very good, and it isn't very conducive to, raising a daughter in that type of environment when she sees her father being treated a certain way, and she sees her grandmother being treated a certain way. It's not a good thing, and it puts her in a very hard, awkward place where she doesn't want to hear either of you fighting, but it's all she hears. So, God sends this person into my life, and it was amazing. So then I'm working for the vending company, and again, I'm collecting cash all the time. I'm collecting cash. That's all I do is collect cash and fill the vending machines. And never once was I accused of stealing there either. It's just when you start integrating integrity into, and I mean, all the money is accounted for. Their machines know what's going on. They're calculating everything. You're marking down what should be in there, so they know how much money is in there. They count the money that, they have a whole safe room where, they have Brinks trucks there every single day. So it's no joke. It's not like you can just take the money real easy. So, that's how you integrate integrity, is that you're looking at, you have the opportunity to steal money all the time, and you don't, because it's the right thing to do. Now, maybe my thought at the time was I didn't want the consequence that came with the act. So maybe it was out of a place of fear, because I didn't know about any of the spiritual stuff yet. I still was spiritually dead asleep. I was still an angry individual, even though I was a very good employee, right? And I met this girl, and oh yeah, it was cool, but I still wasn't a very good person. Not that I wasn't a good person. I had just begun meditating before I moved out of my parents' house. But like, I was probably an average person, but to me, the person I was as an average person wasn't a very good person. So I'm not judging other average people necessarily. I'm just saying who I was. When I was about average, I wasn't a very good person, and I was, still angry, and I wasn't a great father. I had stepped up big time, and I had my daughter with me, and it was just me and her for that first month and a half before my girlfriend moved in. But even when she moved in, she wasn't the motherly type. She didn't have any kids. She wasn't very motherly to Maya. But Maya is also a great kid, and she didn't really do anything to get yelled at. She would just do her thing, and I did my thing, and we got along good that way. But, I still was a very angry individual. And, it's not until I actually did episode 5 that I feel like I finally released, you know, such, I released a lot over time. And that's what happens. You integrate the spirituality into life as well. And I, I think that I did, uh, slowly, which we all do, we lose the bad versions of ourselves, and we integrate the good versions into it. And I think not that I finally did it, but there's the stages that you hit along the way. And when I recorded episode 5 that day and the next 2 days, it was such a release of energy, you know. So, I'm recording, this is episode 8 right now. So this was within the last like week or two that I'm talking, that I'm still releasing all these traumas that are coming up. And so I was operating mostly out of a trauma place at that point. I was still, maybe, no, I don't think no, at the point of the story I'm in, with my girlfriend just moving in at that time, I wasn't meditating through 20 minutes yet. So once I broke through that 20-minute barrier, it was game on. I could meditate for hours, but it took me time to get past that 20-minute marker. So when I have, what I mean is, I started out doing, it's an app. It's called Mindful Head Headspace. Okay, that is a good app, and it gets you started. But I was such an angry individual when I would meditate. I would do like 2 minutes, because what it does is you start off at like a minute or two, and then the next day you raise it by 1 minute, and then you can do any number up until 10. And then once you get to 10, then you have to pay for it or whatever. You get like 10 days of it for free. And I was so angry that when I would do 1 minute, I wouldn't need to meditate again for a few days. And it was just so peaceful the next few days from 1 minute. And then when it was 2 minutes, it would last for days, and I would fall asleep just from clearing out my mind for that long, because I was so angry. I was so filled with such low vibrations that doing a high vibrational practice such as meditation put me to sleep, in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And it took me months to finally break through 20 minutes. So after I finished Headspace, right around that time is when I moved out of my parents, and I started using a 20-minute, or maybe it's like 22-minute little story, a little guided meditation story from YouTube. And I could never break through. I would always get to one part, like 12 minutes in and fall asleep. Then it was like 17 minutes in, I'd fall asleep. And then one time I was able to break through the barrier, and I went through the other side. I went, whatever that is. And it was amazing, and it changed my life. And what I've been doing ever since then, which I guess I was doing then because I was exercising, like I talked about in episode 7. I was exercising heavily at this time, and that girlfriend worked out as well. We went to the same gym, so it was very cool. We did like on Friday nights we would do like yoga together and stuff. Like, it was very cool to do the stuff that we did as a couple. But so I'm doing these, I'm working out. I didn't mention this in the last episode, which I should have. But working out is meditating physically. When we meditate, we want to vibrate, because we are vibrations, but we want to vibrate at a high vibration. We don't want to be at a low vibrational state. So meditating is spiritually vibrating and mentally vibrating and emotionally vibrating. That's what the three stages that you work on in meditation. And once you get good enough, you can physically heal yourself. But I'm not at that point. But there are healers out there. So that's like the last stage. But there's also physical vibrations, which are very good to get you physically happy. You want to combat things from all angles, right? I was such a bad individual that everything needed to be changed about me. So I started fighting all these bad habits because I knew I was in there somewhere. And I was fighting off all these bad habits, and exercise was one of them. Like I said, it was my legs. When I started working out my legs, uh, is when I really started feeling so much younger and feeling so much better, because I was very heavy. So even when I was doing all that weight loss at Pepsi and as a truck driver, I wasn't doing the weight exercises. I wasn't working out. So, and even if it was a workout, like walking, yeah, that's, doing walking with heavy stuff and lifting heavy stuff, that's a workout. But I'm talking about doing weightlifting with my legs and doing squats and weighted squats and all of those things. It made me so much younger and more buoyant. I could bounce around, and it helped me do my core so much easier, because my legs, you learn that your legs are like everything. They're your grounding thing. They rejuvenate you. We don't have legs spiritually, or I'm sorry, we don't have feet spiritually speaking. It's just like how a ghost in any movie, like it comes to, their legs just come to a point. And that's kind of how it is. So we don't have feet when we're spirits. So it's very different for us when we go from being a spirit to a human. That's why we can't walk until we're a certain age, with a certain amount of practice and strength in our legs, because that's what it is. It's strength. We don't really have strength. We're not grounded because we're not of this place. So we're not of it. So we're coming down into it. So we have to work on our legs in order to then physically vibrate, because this is the lowest vibrational plane, is the earth. So we have to physically vibrate to get these emotions off of us, that anger and that sadness and that depression. It all goes away when you start working out. Not that it goes away completely, and not that people that are working out can't have those feelings, but I mean, and when you're working out strenuously, maybe you might be more susceptible to those angers and those sadnesses, because you're vibrating them out. So just like when you're meditating and you're thinking about a trauma, it comes up, that's the same type of deal when you're working out, and then all of a sudden, someone gets in your space and maybe you're a little more jumpy. Not that I necessarily was. It actually calmed me down big time, is because I put out all my frustration there. You work out all that negative energy there, and then you have, what's left. If you physically get all that negative energy off of you, you're boxing. I got a little boxing punching bag out back. Once you're doing that there, then when you're other places, you don't have that emotion on you. You vibrated it off. So you got to integrate yourself. Everything is integration. You got to integrate your spirit into your body by working on your legs, so that you get rid of all those low vibrational problems that you have. It's it's meditation for your physical body. So I forget exactly why I got on that little tangent, but it is all about integration. And I think I'm wrapping up my story here, and I will, at a time in a few episodes when I get there, I will talk about current day stuff, and maybe some of you have heard me on other interviews, and you heard some of the things that I talk about. Uh, I talk about on a regular basis. People think I'm crazy, but I don't really care. I talk to them about it anyway because it's my truth. So, I talk about God a lot, which I haven't talked about at all on this podcast. I haven't talked about spiritual stuff. I will get to all of that. So don't you worry about that. But I'm trying to stop all my stories. I'm trying to do them all in a linear type fashion, even though they're like overlapping stories, like weight loss timeline from before prison to during prison to after prison, and the same thing with the integrating out of prison. And then next I'll probably do addiction. So they're overlapping linear stories. So if you want to hear this entire thing in a linear fashion, I suggest you go back and listen from episode 1 on, because the first 6 episodes were all about me and all my darkness and traumas, and now 7 and 8 are, and here forward is about the goodness, overcoming everything. And maybe I didn't harp on goodness, overcoming things. Maybe I was talking more about my story, because that's ultimately, I'm talking right now, I'm basically interviewing myself, because I'm going to be interviewing people and hear their stories of darkness and goodness. So I'm basically interviewing myself, and first I got all the darkness out of the way in the same, linear fashion of overlapping stories, and now I'm going from the darkness to the goodness. So there's going to be, just as many episodes of goodness, or approximately anyway. And then I'm going to start interviewing people. So this is like me interviewing myself, so that you, the listener, can then know everything about me that I've talked about. And you'll, maybe you're motivated to change something about yourself, or maybe you're motivated to then talk about your story, and maybe you'll email me and you'll spread your story, and then someone will be motivated by your story, and then it'll help them, and then it'll motivate them to tell their story, and so on and so forth. So I'm telling all these stories of my life, not because I want to hear how great I am and look at all the things I've overcome. No, it's to motivate you, and or it's to motivate you to talk about your stories. It's to inspire you to change yourself, that maybe you never noticed you did something, and I talk about it in a way that makes you think of it differently. And you're like, I didn't ever think I needed to change that, but maybe I should now that I'm thinking about it. Something like that. You don't have to listen to me at all. For all you know, I'm just some crazy guy who had felonies and was fat, and now isn't fat, but still has the felonies, and was a drug addict. Was, because I'm not an addict anymore, because that's a lie that they tell you, that I'll get into in the next episode. You're not always an addict. You're not always an addict. Actually, everything that we do is an addiction. It's just how much time we spend on it. But not to say that we don't wear those chains, because I'll get into all of that. I don't want to talk about it all now, but I've worn a chain of addiction of everything. Everything. So that's coming from someone with experience. They tell you that in the propaganda of keeping you in their programs, so that they can monitor you, in some form or fashion, But that's all, another episode. I think that's all I have for integration and integrating integrity. Yeah, it's getting that one opportunity. That's all I needed ever. That's all I ever needed was an opportunity. And then I proved myself to someone. And I guess, last year I was given an opportunity to prove myself to myself, and I did it. And now this year I'm proving to myself that my life isn't in my control. It's in God's. And I'm going to do that, you know, as best as I can, just like with everything else. I want to be the best at it. So guess I can touch on real quick integrating uh, now, because that's a whole thing. I was going to say integrating spiritual stuff into your regular life. No, I don't think I'm going to. That's going to be a whole story of itself, and I'm already an hour plus in here. All right, well, I hope there weren't any technical difficulties. I don't see any that popped up, and uh, I think the dogs only barked one time, so that's a win. Um, but if you are interested in being on the show, being interviewed by me, sharing your story, getting your information out there to help motivate somebody, to inspire somebody, uh, even if you just want me to read off an email, or maybe you just want to exchange emails and you don't want to, you don't want anything public. If you, whatever, just send me an email. My uh, my Gmail account is right on the screen here for anyone watching the video. It's the Great Chakra Awakening 777 at gmail.com. Actually, maybe Facebook doesn't see that. I don't know. But Zoom does. No, it's on there. Okay. Yeah, the Great Chakra Awakening 777 at gmail.com. Send me in your stuff, your stories of goodness overcoming darkness in whatever form that was. I've talked about a lot of my stuff here, and I can relate to just about anyone because of all the different people that I've been. My girlfriend was looking at past pictures of myself uh, from after jail. All the different, uh, I guess, from all the years before she met me. She was like, I don't know this person. I don't know this person. I don't know this person because and she said I look younger, but it's actually that we agreed on that it's that I'm softer looking. I used to look very hard, you know, uh, just like a hardened person, and now I'm softer. So I appear to be younger, I guess, because I take care of myself in a more loving way. And it shows. So uh, I forget why I even was saying that. I forget why I got on that little tangent. But anyway, hopefully you guys come check out the Facebook page, the YouTube page. I'm working hard to get all this stuff uploaded and got to convert the files. And I don't know none of this. I don't know how to edit. I'm having trouble. I guess I know how to edit. You just go to the part and cut it out or whatever. But I'm having trouble with programs, and I'm spending money on all these different things, and I'm getting broken items sent to me. I'm having to buy other things because this thing's not working. I'm just I'm expending myself here to get this information out there. This isn't easy. I guess anyone can start a podcast, right? All you really need is, I guess, your cell phone. But I'm trying to do it the right way. I'm trying to be inclusive, and I want to heal people. I want to help people heal. And that's what that's what this podcast is all about, healing. So that's the importance of sharing around, uh, sharing your stories, because I want this show to heal people. That's what I want. And, I'm willing to pay to do that because it's worth it to me. So if you could, like and share or whatever that you do, wherever you're listening to this, just share the link, share your story with me, you know, let's do this. So you can go to my website, tinyurl.com/goodness-over-darkness, or the Great Chakra Awakening 777.podbean.com. They're the two ways to get to the website. The YouTube, I think I just exited out, but the YouTube is same as the podcast, is Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. Find me there. I have the episodes. I think I have 4 episodes uploaded so far. Again, it's difficult with them having to get the files transferred from MP3 to MP4 because they feel the episodes were audio only, or I recorded them not on Zoom. So, it's in a different place, and I'm just having to do all this new stuff with technology. I'm not a fan of technology, if you can't tell. That's why I'm not even going to edit anymore. I'm not even going to worry about it. You get what you get. So, there's I think that's all I really got for today. There's nothing else for me to say. All right. Well, bye everybody.